Okay, we're up to the next day of the One Piece Advent calendar where I'm watching all of One Piece for the first time. And I'm reviewing the arcs as we go. Some of them are shorter, some of them are longer. This one right here felt incredibly, incredibly long. I do not think this is very good. If I'm honest, we're talking about Syrup Village today. The third arc where we meet Usopp, who is one of my favorite of the Straw Hat Pirates. I think he's like an incredible addition to the crew. But this arc is not it. And I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit. You know, kind of things I do like, kind of things that I don't like. But in general, I think there's extreme pacing issue here. I think this goes on way too long, and I think generally the overall plan of the villain just doesn't make any sense. I do want to do kind of separate videos in the future about the One Piece live action TV series because I have watched the first season of that. They condensed Syrup Village down to, I think it was just one episode they spent in Syrup Village, and it was far superior. And even then, it's still kind of dragged, if I'm honest. But let's kind of talk about it. So, I do really like Usopp. I do think that Usopp's introduction here is kind of poor, though. I think it's very easy to see why he's kind of like polarizing. At first, he doesn't get that same sort of like really like endearing treatment. At least for me, the a lot of the key players so far got, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and then I'd even extend that to talk about, major supporting players that have been introduced so far, which I would say is Shanks and Buggy the Clown. But his tendency to like lie and exaggerate, it's like it's meant to be like endearing and humorous, and I think it generally is with Usopp's character. I think just because this arc is so lacking and there's just like not really like a story that for me that it gets like pretty sort of annoying and repetitive. It might just be because I kind of want this arc to be over, if I'm being honest. He does show his bravery, which is really cool. I like that Usopp like showing his bravery and stuff like that, and that's something I really respect about his character, and I find him really like relatable. As because he can act, despite being sort of like a doofus, he can like act like a sort of POV character because he's he's not one of these like crazy super strong the characters. So that bravery is sort of is appreciated, but I feel it's overshadowed by the like Usopp lies, Usopp exaggerates, and it goes on just like everything in this arc. It just goes on sort of like too much, making it hard to take him or the story seriously. Right? It kind of just feels like there's a lot of sort of whining going on, and we don't have that same sort of like fun sense of like progression and adventure we were getting in the two introductory arcs. Am I being too harsh on this? Do people like Syrup Village? I just think it's kind of ass. It just felt in kind of like it kind of felt stagnant, and as a consequence of that, and I sense sort of like part of his character for him to like power scaling wise or like utility kind of feel like a lesser member of the crew. But I don't think that's the intention, because I think the sort of bravery is meant to sort of really stand out, and it just gets really diluted for me because of all of the nonsense that's kind of going on. I did I did think that like his thing with Kaya, like his friend, was like cute. It didn't quite work for me though. Like I felt like she was incredibly sort of like one-dimensional, and her role is just like exclusively damsel in distress. It feels uninspired, especially when you contrast it to like Nami, who we had introduced in like the previous arc with this like insane level of like agency and doing whatever they want. By comparison, it's just like like she exists to like be sick and increase the emotional stakes of the story. But I think because the story, like, I'm so like not bought into it, is like I don't really sort of give that the benefit of the doubt, which I might to sort of like other things in other situations. And like I understood that on like paper there was meant to be like really touching moments, which One Piece does really well, and is like coming in like the next couple arcs. But I don't know, man. It's just like she didn't leave a strong impact on me. Even though this thing feels really dragged out, she still doesn't feel there enough, or at least she's not there enough doing something of like sort of like of value. It seems like a sort of passive personality. I mean, we're gonna get to like my biggest thing now is Kuro, the villain of the thing, who is just like after we had like in like Romance Storm we didn't really have like like a big sort of villain. In Orange Town we had Buggy, who was like sick, and sort of like instant classic. Yeah, like Buggy for me, it feels like you get like you think of something like no, I'm thinking of like procedural stuff now. I'm thinking of like the X-Files, and you get sort of these like freak of the weeks, you get these like monsters showing up, these monsters of the week, or like Buffy, and like really early on you get that episode Slither, and you get that dude, what's he called, Tooms, and it was like, oh man, it's like instant sort of classic monster dude, and like Buggy shows up and you're like, oh man, this is like an instant classic sort of villain for these guys to face. And obviously not everything's gonna be like that, and it doesn't work if everything is the classic, but we get this Kuro guy showing up in Serp Village, and he's just so disappointing. He's meant to bring in sort of like a darker edge, but he's like his plans are so overly complicated and drawn out for what's ultimately a fairly straightforward goal of seizing Kaya's fortune. He's like, and so it just comes off like an idiot, because it's like it's just got like layers and layers and layers to it, to the point of it just being like so nonsensical. And that's the story of Serp Village. Like that's the story, is this. So I think it's ass. I think this is like I think this is a chore to get through. I think this is the first like real obstacle somebody's got when it's like try out One Piece, because Romance Dawn fun, Orange Town super fun with Buggy, and then you got Nami coming in there, and then you got this, and it's like on paper Usopp's character design is weird. Like he looks weird, he looks strange. Like I love it now, it grows on you. But like this dude looks strange and weird. He's coming off as whiny. The emotional stuff's like falling through, and the thing they're trying to overcome for chapters and chapters, episodes and episodes from this Kuro guy just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I know he's meant to be like, it's like, oh man, there's like darker dudes out there. He's like calculated and calm, and it's just but it's like. There's kind of like an inconsistency with himself when he's like so like violent and like erratic fighting style, and that inconsistency is distracting rather than being like menacing, unlike the previous villains who had like humor or memorable quirks. I'm really targeting this at Buggy. Kuro lacks the same charm, making him less engaging and just like really forgettable, like really really forgettable. And as I've got deeper into like One Piece as a thing, you can kind of see why. The pacing, it's so much longer than it drags. It's longer than necessary. There's several scenes that just seem to be repetitive, that give us like the same beat, the same information, and they have to deal with it again. It's padded out. For instance, like Usopp's attempts to warn the villagers, only to be ignored each time. It's frustrating rather than suspenseful, because it just happens over and over, and the repeated structure slows down the story's progression, making it harder to stay engaged with like the conflict that's going on. I felt even like the final showdown with Kuro and the crew, it like falls flat on its face. I don't think it's like creative and fun and satisfying, and the way stuff like the Boogie stuff was. I found that what they call the Naiban brothers and the other like minions don't present much of a challenge. I also don't know why they're there. The plan's just so like overcomplicated. It makes specifically the fights, the confrontations with those minions just feel like filler rather than like meaningful tests of strength. And like even the final fight between Luffy and Kuro, it lacks the excitement and humor that I appreciate in the earlier battles. As Kuro's moves are more relatively like one note and predictable, as opposed to the kind of like the stuff you've introduced so far is like you've introduced like, oh yeah, like Buggy, like I know like Luffy can stretch, and then like Zoro has like the 3 swords, and then like Buggy can like the chop through, and then like Navi's like this cat burglar, and then it's like, oh, we got like a slingshot, and we got, you know, Kuro, and it's like, all right. And I mean, like the Usopp stuff gets good, and Usopp grows into like this character that like I totally love, but like here, I don't know, man. Like the Ox attempts at like emotional death, they're less impactful than like they should be. You know, Usopp's loyalty to the village and his courage defending Kuyo, it's supposed to be like this high point, but it just feels like they're undercut by the pace and the lack of character development for Kaya and the villagers, because that's who you kind of like rooting for. You're like, and it's just like, okay, I've got some sort of like goodwill towards Usopp, but it's being dragged down, and the emotional payoff's just not as strong as it could be. Usopp's growth doesn't feel natural. I don't know, this just feels like a kind of misstep. This is the weaker arc in One Piece. I think it's potentially the weakest out of everything. I mean, we'll keep going because we're gonna have, like, as I said, I'm recording a bunch of these after I've seen a few of the arcs. Most of the arcs I really, really like, but there is a couple of real stinkers, for me at least. And I do think this is the one, slow pacing, all that sort of thing. A bit of a slog. I can understand if you, like, tell someone to watch One Piece and then they drop off here. I can totally understand. Like, fair enough. Like, I have limited time in my day. I can only watch so many episodes or whatever. And I'm watching Surf Village for what feels like an eternity. I can totally, like, understand people dunking out. It makes complete sense to me. There we go. Please give me your opinions on Surf Village. Am I being way too harsh on this? Like, is this a common opinion? Yeah, we're gonna do... I don't even know how I'm gonna, like... The next thing I think is, like, defined as an arc. I don't even know how we're gonna make a video out of it, but whatever. I'll see you guys next time. I hope you're having a wonderful, festive Advent, and you're enjoying watching the One Piece reviews every single day. Mwah! Peace out. Tell me your opinions on Usopp, on Surf Village. Do you think it sucks? Because I do.